Hey, third agers. Today I'm delighted to introduce to you Susan Bratton, intimacy expert to millions, and a champion and advocate for all who desire passionate relationships. Susan is a sexual biohacker, recommending regenerative therapies that keep your libido and desire thrumming with life force because sex is good for you. Her current work and her fearless approach is rooted in her own struggles in her 30-year marriage. She watched their sex life wither as she and her husband both pursued demanding careers. And after 30 years of marriage, Susan has made it her mission to aid anyone who wants the kind of lovemaking that improves with age. Susan's superpower is courage and the willingness to get nerdy on anatomy, detailed about sex skills, and science-driven on sex drive to achieve this outcome for everyone whose lives she touches. Today, Susan and her husband Tim have the kind of dream relationship most people have stopped believing is even possible until they discover Susan's teachings. It is now my honor to introduce to you Susan Bratton and sexual biohacking.
Hi, I'm Susan Bratton, intimacy wellness expert to millions, and this is about sexual biohacking, ageless sexuality solutions that restore your genitals and reverse atrophy, ED, painful sex, hormone imbalances, and more. So what is biohacking? Biohacking really means regenerative treatments and therapies and lifestyle methods that allow you to reverse aging, in this case in your genitals. So reversing atrophy, which happens to all of us as we get old, sensation loss, which also happens to all of us as we age, painful sex, erectile dysfunction for both sexes, because though people think about erectile dysfunction as something for men, women have the same amount of erectile tissue in our genitals as our male partners do. So we get ED too, which means we don't get full of blood flow, and then we don't have the same sensation we used to have, and we lose lubrication. So loss of lubrication is a very big thing for women, and loss of semen force and volume is a big thing for men, as well as things like prostate issues for men and incontinence or urinary issues for both the male and female bodies. So a lot of things can go wrong as we age because we get affected throughout our body with the issues of aging. But there are a number of things that you can do. And when you talk to biohackers, they like to talk about things in terms of the stack, which means these are the things that you do together that work synergistically to give you the kind of ageless longevity that you're looking for. And you don't have to have trouble getting hard, trouble feeling pleasure when you do this stack. You might not need all of these things, but this will give you a good list of things to consider so that you can say, oh, I think my issue might be sensation loss, or I'm having lubrication issues, or I'm having painful sex, or I'm getting a little bendy and I'm not as firm as I used to be. I don't feel the pleasure I used to feel. I'm up all night peeing, or I pee when I cough, run, jump, etc. So you have to think about that in terms of what I'm about to say. And I'm going to go through quite a number of different modalities, treatments, options, etc. And you can pick and choose things that might be of interest to you. I'll let you know as well that I have a lot of videos at betterlover.com that go through each one of the things I'm about to talk about, so that if you're thinking, testosterone's my issue, or oh, my problem is blood flow, then you can find more at betterlover.com. So the stack. A lot of people think, okay, my libido is low because my hormones are down. And it is true that hormones have an effect on libido, but it is actually a secondary issue, not a primary issue. The primary issue is often blood flow, which is a loss of nitric oxide production, not a loss of hormone production. And I'm going to get to blood flow in a minute, but let's deal with hormones. When you lose hormones as you age, when you produce less hormones as you age, it's not really estrogen that is the reason for women that their libido goes flatlined. it's actually interesting that it's usually a loss of blood flow and a lack of having the kind of sex that women need to get fully engorged to get their own erection, not just clitoral, but their whole vulva, all of the parts of the female genitals erect. The hormone that affects sex for women is estrogen, but only when it includes the thinning of the lining of the vagina, the vaginal mucosa. And even if you don't want to take bioidentical hormone replacement, you can put plant-based estrogens or DHEA, which is a precursor to estrogen, in your vagina in a cream-based solution that will help thicken that vaginal mucosa. For men, it's often a loss of testosterone that is preventing them from getting the kind of erections that they want. But both men and women have testosterone, and testosterone really is the hormone of lust, of desire. So for many women, we supplement our testosterone in addition to our estrogen. And if you'd like to learn more about that, I have 2 free gifts that I'll mention now and at the end of this video. One is hormonebalancingbook.com, where I go through a series of videos and information that helps you understand how to test your hormones, what kind of test to get, how to understand them, and your options for hormone replacement therapy or creating your own endogenous or internally generated hormones rather than exogenous, which is taking hormone replacement therapy. The other free gift that you might like to have is an entire interview that I did with Ben Greenfield, who is a biohacker, about how to generate your own testosterone, and that's at toptesto.com. And that's a video with a transcript of the video that dives deep into how to produce more of your own endogenous testosterone with supplements and other modalities. So, the most important thing to all of this, though, is that it actually comes down to your gut microbiome. You can't produce the hormones you need to produce, nor the neurotransmitters that make sex feel good if your gut biome is messed up. If you're not well hydrated, if you don't have good bacteria lining your gut biome, then you're not going to be able to produce the hormones that you naturally could. So it all really starts in the biome. So things like probiotics and prebiotics and getting rid of parasites and bacterial overgrowths is very, very important. And I always say, if you're not pooing, like the poo just comes right out of your butt every day super easily and just pirouettes out of there and swirls down the toilet effortlessly. If you have any trouble with your pooing, that's your first sign of the thing that you need to take care of. And it's not a hormone issue, it's a gut issue. So look at the gut first before you even think about bioidentical hormone replacement or replacing your own hormones endogenously. The other thing that I think is a really important conversation to have is a conversation about sexual lubricants. Lubrication is considered a Class 2 FDA product. And because of that, it needs to have preservatives in it. And a lot of the preservatives are toxic. They're chemicals, things that are not really very good for you. They just make sure that no bacteria gets into the product so you don't get an infection. The problem with that is that then you're putting toxins on your genitals. So I really recommend that you stick with something like organic nut oils like avocado oil, sweet almond oil, jojoba oil. These oils have different viscosities. You might have an allergy to avocados. There's lots of choices out there. But using a simple nut oil is really all you need for a lubricant. You can use as much as you want, and what's nice is that you can wipe it off and it's even edible. So if you're going from intercourse to oral pleasuring, you don't have all these nasty chemicals in your body. I always say that if you wouldn't put it in here, you shouldn't put it down there, because you don't want the toxins to mess up your gut biome, to ruin your hormone production. It all goes back to the gut ultimately, because you have to think about this is one tube, your mouth all the way down to your genitals, your rectum, your vagina, your urethra. We are a tube, and we are made of a lot of tubes, but they all have mucous membranes in them. So the same mucous membrane in your mouth is what's in your genital mucous membranes, and they're very delicate. So putting chemicals on them is not a great idea. So consider getting yourself some organic oils. And if you are a condom user and you're worried about having the oils and the condom, try polyethylene or polypropylene condoms. The Trojan Supra is a great brand of those condoms which are impervious to oil, and it protects you from getting STIs. Some STIs, not all STIs. STIs really are not all contained by a condom. They can jump the ship, if you will. A lot of STIs, and there are over 20, are skin-to-skin contact, and a condom won't protect you. But that's for a separate video, which you can find at betterlover.com. I talk a lot about STIs and safe sex. So let's get to blood flow, because almost everything I'm about to tell you, from gains waves to Phoenix Pros to PRP to penis pumps and vulva pumps and vibrators, I'm going to show you a lot of technologies and talk about a lot of treatments and modalities. It all really comes down to blood flow. Your genitals, I'm going to show you some things. Your genitals, and I'm going to start with the men, and I'm going to move to the women. And I want to tell you that I support all gender expression, but you are either born XX or XY chromosome, so you either start out with a penis and a prostate, or a vagina and a clitoris and a G-spot. And so it's important for you to understand that we have the same amount of erectile tissue, no matter whether we are XX or XY, and we all suffer from erectile dysfunction as we age. And we need good blood flow, and there are things that can restore the blood flow. Let me show you how it works. So you're probably pretty familiar with this beautiful thing, which is a penis and testicles, etc. Now, what I want to show you is what it looks like inside that skin. So inside the skin, we have the bladder, the prostate, the suspensory ligament, which is going to come in when I talk to you about penis pumps and vacuum erection devices. We have the testicles down here. We have the penis, and in the penis there are 3 big erectile tissue chambers. Those 3 are 2 corpus cavernosums and 1 corpus spongiosum. The spongiosum is the one that surrounds the urethra. This is where the ejaculate and the urine comes out. And then these 2 are the big chambers that get blood. Now, men have something called hemodynamics that allows their penis to go from flaccid to erect very quickly, which is really great. They get lots of blood flow. The blood flow expands. It locks the blood into the penis, and then he has an erection. The most common erectile dysfunction issue is called a venous leak, and that's where your vascular system, your blood vessels, when they fill up, the outside of the blood vessels are weak from artery plaque, and they become brittle. It's called smooth muscle tissue, or the endothelial cells are what line this outer layer of your vascular system. And they can't lock tight to hold the blood in, and so then you get bendy and you start to get erectile dysfunction. Some men have trouble getting the blood in, but mostly men can get the blood in, but they can't keep it in. So I'm going to tell you about treatments: Gainswave, the Phoenix Pro, PRP, and the Whopper penis pump, the vulva pump for women, that are all things that help you restore this endothelial layer of smooth muscle tissue, stimulate new tissue growth, and let all that erectile tissue fill up with blood. Now, I want you to remember how much tissue we're looking at here in the blue and green erectile tissue image here, because I'm going to show you what it looks like in women. This same amount of erectile tissue is in our vulvas. It's just in different places. So let's take a look. This is the beautiful vulva, and you can see that we have the clitoral hood, the clitoral glands, we've got the outer labia, we've got the inner labia, we've got the opening to the vagina, which is called the vestibule. Inside the vestibule, there's the urethral exit where the pee comes out, and there's the vaginal opening, which inside you can get to the G-spot, as well as outside in the urethral area. You can touch the G-spot there. You've got the perineum and you've got the anus. Well, look what happens when I peel away the skin and you can actually see what the erectile tissue looks like in the vulva. The vulva, check this out. That's what's underneath. How cool is that? Super cool, right? So here's the clitoral head. That's called the glans. That's like the tip of the penis. Here's the clitoral shaft. These are the crura, or the clitoral arms, that drape over the vagina. They're in the channel between the inner and outer labia. And then these big hangy teal things, these are the vestibular bulbs of the clitoral legs. That's the clitoral system of erectile tissue, but that's just one of 3 erectile tissue systems in the vulva. The second one is this little tube. This is called the urethral canal, or this is what people call the G-spot, but it's not a spot. It's a long noodle of erectile tissue that fills with blood. And then down here is the perineal sponge between the vagina and the rectum. So there's 3 erectile tissues in the vulva that wrap around and embrace, just like a bracelet, wraps around the vagina, which also has mechanoreceptors that feel pressure and touch. So this whole system needs to get engorged, but it doesn't have the benefit of that hemodynamics that I mentioned earlier. So I like to explain that if you think about the penis as a banana, about half of the penis sticks out and about half the penis goes in and down toward the testicles. In the female body, about 5% of the erectile tissue is sticking out. That's the clitoral tip and the bit of the shaft. All the rest, 95% of it, is all that draping, beautiful erectile tissue that's all throughout the vulva. And so you can't see it, but it's under there and it needs to be stimulated. And as we age, those spongy tissues begin to atrophy. They lose their tumescence. They lose the blood flow. Your nitric oxide production starts to wane, and you can't get the blood flow to your genitals to fill up that tissue. The vagina as well doesn't lubricate itself. It's not self-lubricating. It's not a gland. It's actually mucosal tissue, like inside your mouth. And so the way that you both ejaculate and lubricate as a woman is that your blood plasma, the blood is recruited to your pelvic bowl, and the blood plasma goes through all the layers of the vaginal tissue and wets the internal vagina. The blood plasma also sends all that fluid, prostatic fluid, down into the urethral sponge, that second erectile system, and these little Skene's glands absorb it, and as you have an orgasmic contraction, the ejaculate comes out of the urethra. So just the same way a man ejaculates from his penis and he urinates from his penis, a woman ejaculates from her urethra and urinates from her urethra. And all of these things take blood flow for the ejaculate to happen and the erectile function to happen. And when you're missing your blood flow as you age, your nitric oxide diminishes as fast as your hormones decline. And so people often think, oh, it's my hormones, when it's actually your nitric oxide production. I've got videos on nitric oxide production, but suffice to say, I make a supplement called Flow. Let me show you that. Flow uses citrulline, and citrulline works better than arginine. These are amino acids for producing nitric oxide and supplementing your nitric oxide production in your body. When you take a couple capsules of Flow, especially at night when you're refilling your nitric oxide stores, because you have a nitric oxide pumping system in your body that sends nitric oxide where your body needs the blood flow, to your brain when you're working, to your heart and your glutes when you're exercising, and to your genital system when you're making love. So for many men who are taking Viagra to get an erection, they can actually lower or even stop taking Viagra when they top up their nitric oxide stores. For women who are having, and men who are having sensation loss, getting increased blood flow into the system, to me, is the ground zero of the biohack stack. If you don't start with your nitric oxide production, then everything else you do isn't going to work as well. You're not going to get the synergy that you're looking for from your regenerative treatments, your regenerative sexual treatments. So Flow you can find at buyflownow.com. That's a special link that'll get you a special price for watching this video. And what I love about this is that we make it out of organic fruits and vegetables. So it's not something made in a vat in China. It's something made in the USA from quality ingredients. Flow. The second thing that I want to tell you is that now that you understand that hormones are a part of it, but such a small part of it, and that blood flow is so important, I want to talk about the things that you can do to stimulate new tissue growth and enhance the blood flow to your genitals so you feel more pleasure and have better orgasms. The first one is Gainswave. Gainswave is a doctor-administered series of treatments that use a sound healing, or what is called shockwave technology, that sends stimulation into the penile tissue so that it stimulates new tissue growth. It's a regenerative treatment that works incredibly well. If you live in an area where there are no Gainswave doctors, or you are the kind of guy or woman, because there's a Phoenix Pro for him and a Phoenix Pro for her, that you want to DIY it at home, you can now get the Phoenix Pro. It's a little bit lighter weight version because the machines, the Gainswave and, by the way, FemiWave machines in the doctor's offices are very expensive, and they just have more oomph to them. But you can do the at-home kind of slow and do-it-yourself kind of way to do things with the Phoenix Pro, him and her. So that's, to me, the very best thing that you can do to regenerate your tissue and get more blood flow going. Now, the second thing that I would add to that stack, especially if you have sensation loss, is PRP. PRP is platelet-rich plasma. It stands. It comes from your own blood. You get a little bit of blood out. They put it in a centrifuge. They take off the white and the red blood cells, and they take this fibrin-rich matrix, this golden broth of healing and growth factors, and inject it. You're numbed into your clitoral structure or into your penis, into the erectile tissue of your penis, and that spongy tissue sucks up those growth factors and healing factors and calls cytokines to recruit stem cells to come and repair the tissue. So when you do the tissue stimulation with Gainswave or FemiWave, or a Phoenix Pro, for him or her, combined with the PRP to help repair the stimulation that you've created, you have the perfect combination of regenerative sexual treatments. The third piece of it, and it's a three-legged stool. If you want to stack, you start with Flow at the bottom and get your blood flow going. And then you choose do it yourself or have it done for you, Gainswave. Add PRP if you can afford it. But the bottom line is, even if you can't afford those things, you can afford a vacuum erection device. Vacuum erection devices, aka penis or vulva pumps, work using a vacuum to suck blood from your body into your genital system to expand the blood carrying capacity. The more blood you have, the more tissue gets plumped up, the more erect your genitals are, the more surface area there is for pleasure, the more signals go to your brain for pleasure, the better your whole system operates. Let me show you a couple. This is a penis pump. It comes with a hand gauge, a gauge for measuring the vacuum amount, because it's very important to watch how much vacuum you're using so you don't over pump. It's like making a stew. You never want to boil it. You want to always keep it on low heat. And this allows your blood to be pulled into your penis. And then look at this. I'm going to switch this out. You can also do it to your vulva. And here's the vulva pump. So you put this over your vulva and pull the blood right into your vulva to engorge all that erectile tissue. Or, and there's a splitter for this, but I won't take the time to put it on there, you can put on a clitoral. And these also work on your nipples, which is nice for inverted nipples and things. You can put this on your clitoris and you can engorge your clitoral structure. And what that does, if you do it frequently, is that it actually works to reverse the atrophy. And for the masculine and even the feminine, it's for penis and clitoral enlargement, and it works. I have an ebook for you that talks all about it and explains it at pumpingguide.com. And over 30,000 people have downloaded that book. I have helped so many people. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people have successfully reversed their erectile dysfunction and enlarged their penile volume using the Whopper technology. So I can't tell you enough about how good it is. And what's nice is, for literally a couple of $100s, you can restore function to your genitals from aging and atrophy. The last thing that I want to say is to talk about are vibrators and prostate massagers. What I like are vibrators that are both internal, and I've got quite a large one here. This is a Fun Factory product. I also like the Lady Bi and the Miss Bi, which are a little bit smaller than these, depending on the size of your vagina, because women have a range of vaginal sizes, just like our male-bodied partners have a range of penis sizes. And what's good about this is this flat pad goes up against the external clitoral tissue, while this helps with the urethral and entire vaginal area to stimulate through the vibration, stimulates the blood flow, which helps keep atrophy at bay. And so you've got the reversal strategies and you've got the strategy that keeps the blood flow coming in. So solo pleasuring, incorporating these into lovemaking, whether it's a prostate tool or a female vibrator, depending on your equipment, is a very, very important part of having ageless sexuality. So I have given you a number of things. I want to give you hormonebalancingbook.com, toptesto.com, pumpingguide.com. These are 3 free gifts depending on your area of interest that you can, and I also have one called vaginalrejuvenationbook.com that talks all about my journey on testing a lot of vaginal rejuvenation technologies and treatments that I think you'll really like as well. So I have so much more information for you than I can give in this, but I think this was a good high-level overview of what is possible to have fantastic genital vibrancy and sexual vitality through your whole life. I'm Susan Bratton, intimacy expert to millions, and you can find me at betterlover.com and personallifemedia.com. I'll see you on the other side.